Hey guys, Matt here. So, I recently finished playing Pokemon Detective Pikachu, so it is time for my game review. Now, before we get into my review, if you would be so kind, please leave a thumbs up down below. Those likes really help out a small YouTuber like me, and if you enjoy my content, I please ask you to subscribe as well. Now, on to the game. Of course, if you haven't played the game and you want to play the game, I must warn you this video will contain spoilers. First and foremost, this is the first non-main series Pokemon game I've played in a long time. The last one I played was actually Pokemon trading card game for Game Boy Color. Yeah, remember those? That being said, this game was a completely different experience for me. There was no raising a strong and diverse 6 Pokemon team, no gym leaders or trial captains, no Elite Four, no catching Pokemon, and no Pokemon battles. That's right, there were no battles whatsoever. So, what kind of game was this? Honestly, this was a straight up mystery sleuth game with Pokemon. While Pokemon did play an important role in the game as far as the R case was concerned, that was about the extent of it. Even the titular, however you say it, character, Detective Pikachu, may not have been all that essential to the game. Allow me to explain. The game starts with the main human character, Tim Goodman, coming to Rhyme City to find his father, Harry, who has gone missing while investigating a case. He immediately runs into a Pikachu, who is his father's Pokemon partner, and who Tim can inexplicably understand. At that point, Tim and Pikachu go off in search of Harry, but they end up stumbling upon the case that he was working on, and they end up completing his case. During the course of the game, Tim and Pikachu speak to various people in Pokemon to help them find Harry and resolve the case he was working on. However, the only thing that Pikachu really did in this whole game was translate for us whenever we needed any information from a Pokemon, and a lot of the Pokemon that we talked to were pretty clueless. Now, some Pokemon did have some good information to share with us, but if that information had been given by human characters instead of the Pokemon, there would have been no need for the Detective Pikachu character at all, because he was just translating. The game did have a very well-defined plot, and each chapter of the game expanded on what was discovered in the previous one pretty well, and I feel like that's what this game relied on more than anything. The reason I say that is because the gameplay aspect of Detective Pikachu was extremely limited. Most of the gameplay was just us talking to other NPCs at various places the game took us to. There were a few times when we might have to mash the A button in order to move something or time something just right. But if you didn't do that right, you either just try it again or you got a funny little one-liner from Pikachu. There were no real decisions that you, the player, needed to make in order to progress through the game. If you got stuck somewhere, which happened to me pretty often, you basically would keep running around talking to all the people in Pokemon again to see if anyone had anything new to say. As far as the cases themselves, they were okay. There was the main R case that in each chapter we'd find out a little bit more about, and that would lead us to a new area. But once we got to that new area, there was a mini case that we would also get caught up in and had to solve. The thing that annoyed me about this wasn't the fact that the mini cases were there. I was actually okay with that part, but the way in which we had to go about solving the cases. There were a couple of instances where I knew who the culprit was, or I know what our next step needed to be, but because we hadn't talked to every single Pokemon or person that knew something, we were basically stuck until we talked to everyone. Then, once we had all the information, it wasn't enough just to know what the answer was. We had to know who did we get that information from. In order to communicate that information, we had to select the picture of the person who gave us this info. But here's the fun part. Most of the time, the person's picture would show up as an option more than once. We somehow had to know which of the 2, maybe 3 pictures of that person was the right one to choose for the case. Since I had never played this game before, I selected an easy mode at the beginning, and honestly, if I hadn't, it would have taken a lot longer to complete this game than it actually did, because the easy mode allowed me to quote-unquote receive inspiration, and it would basically choose the right pictures for me. Anyway, like I said, this game was mostly plot driven, which is fine. It established early on what the protagonist's motive was for doing everything that he's doing. He's looking for his dad. But then Tim ended up getting wrapped up in the case that Harry was trying to solve when he went missing, which honestly makes sense. If Harry was doing something while investigating this case that led to his disappearance, following the case ourselves is probably a pretty good way of potentially finding out exactly what happened to Harry. And that's what Tim does. He sees the case through to completion. The mastermind behind everything is caught, several of his cronies are also caught along the way, and the R case is closed. But here's the kicker. Tim never finds his father. Mewtwo tells Tim that Harry is alive and that Tim will keep finding him if he keeps looking, but the whole reason for Tim showing up in Rhyme City and doing all these investigations never comes to fruition. Now, recently, they have announced that a sequel to this game will be released. I don't think they've announced a release date yet. And chances are, this is the game in which Tim will finally find Harry. They've also said that this game will have a different ending than the movie, so I am curious about that since in the movie, Pikachu had become merged with Harry, so Tim was actually with his dad the whole time. So it'll be interesting to see how the characters of Pikachu and Harry are handled in the sequel. If, in fact, Harry is actually found in the sequel. Overall, this game was not my favorite. Of all the games I've done on YouTube, this is definitely my least favorite, Ultra Sun included. Once you beat the main game, that's it. You're done. If you want to do more, you literally have to start the game over from the beginning. And that's also a problem because to me this game has no replayability. If you play this game again, you're going to play it the exact same way you played it the first time. You can't try it again with a different team. You can't try and Nuzlocke your way through it. You can't do a solo challenge. You can't play this game any differently than how the creators want you to play it. When I beat the game, I did not feel a sense of accomplishment like I do in the main series games when I become Pokemon League champion. Honestly, I felt a sense of relief that the game was over. I kind of checked out about halfway through it, to be honest. Now, I'm not saying it's a terrible game. I'm just saying that every other game I've ever played was better. When Detective Pikachu 2 comes out, will I play it? Absolutely. I'm invested now. I need to know what happened to Harry. They've said it's going to be different from the movie, so I can't go based off that. Hopefully the sequel will allow the player to interact more and actually have us be able to make decisions that will impact the course of the game. I see advertisements on Facebook all the time for these choices games where you make a decision and that decision impacts what happens next. That's what Detective Pikachu 2 really needs to be, a choices game. Even if it does end up having the same result at the end, at least let there be different ways of getting there. Otherwise, it's just a movie where you have to mash the A button every now and then to continue watching it. One thing I do want to put out there is don't let my opinion of the game or even your opinion of the game keep you from seeing the movie. Because I actually really enjoyed the movie, and the game not being as great as I'd hoped did not in any way make the movie unenjoyable for me. Anyway, now I ask you, what are your thoughts on the Detective Pikachu game? Have you played it yourself, or did you just watch my Let's Play of it? Do you plan to play this game or the sequel? Let me know down in the comments what you thought. This is Matt. Thank you for watching my review of Detective Pikachu, the game, and stay tuned for the next video. Bye.